So, Sorcha, how are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you so
Good.
much.
Thank you for being here today.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So, Sorcha, me and you met at the end of last year at a lash industry event. And when I walked in, you were actually one of the first people that caught my attention. But I knew you weren't a lash artist. I knew you weren't a lash artist. And I don't know how I knew, but I just knew. And then when I figured out you were a life coach, I was like, of course she is. Of course she is. I don't know why it resonated with me, but like, I just knew you would be so lovely and had such a sweet soul. So tell me a little bit about how you became a life coach.
Well, first of all, that's the sweetest thing ever. Thank
It's
you
the
so
truth, I
much.
promise you. I promise you. And I was dying to say it to you, so it is the truth.
Well, I'm glad it's all coming out in the wash now. You're like the only non-lash artist there, probably the only girl without lashes on. Until
You
today.
and me both.
Well, Rachel, thank you so much. That is just the sweetest thing ever. As you said, I'm a life coach. So how I got into life coaching, well, honestly, way before my qualification, I feel like I've been a life coach since I was a child. And what I mean by that is, and I feel like you would probably have been this sort of person to your friends. You know that person everyone just always went to
Yes.
when something was wrong,
Yeah.
or they needed a bit of advice, or they just needed a friend.
The mama of the group.
Oh my God, I have so many kids now. I've never given birth. I've never birthed a child, but I have many children. Yeah. I literally call myself Auntie Sorcha.
I love it. Can I call you Auntie Sorcha?
Of course. Welcome to the family home. So as I said, yeah, I feel like I've had that sort of nurturing nature in me since I was a kid. And I always wanted to make sure everyone else around me was okay, that they were happy. And, as I got a little bit older, that transitioned into being the best friends to everyone, and
Yeah.
while that all sounds like sunshine and roses and beautiful, I think a lot of that was really driven by, I think, a fear of not having friends,
Yeah. I think that like every group has that mom figure. And it always is the person who has that kind of, not a chip on their shoulder, but a worry. They're always a worrier. And I would have thought I would have been like that as well. But I've always been like a chronic worrier,
Yeah.
So I totally get where you're coming from with that.
God, same as myself. And of course, as a child or as a teen, I wasn't aware of the fact that a lot of my beautiful friendly tendencies were probably driven from a fear of losing people.
Yeah.
I only know that now from obviously the field I'm in. I have a psychology degree and all of that.
Yeah.
But that all kind of started because when I was younger, I had so many amazing friends and I was having a lot of fun and all of this. And then when I was 9, I think, the dynamic of the group started to shift. And I was one of the only girls in the group. And, new girls came in and essentially I got pushed out. But
Yeah.
it was years of absolute nastiness, to the point where I had no friends.
And what age would you have been at this stage?
I think that nastiness started around age 9.
Okay, that's really young. For me, the age I was when I started to see just how nasty girls can be. It was secondary school, but 9, that's really young to see the bitchy side of what us girls can be like.
Yeah, and it was, Rachel, people always kind of assume it was girls now. It was, but it was all of the fellas as well.
Okay,
Was-
so you hung around with guys as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And, I was always a little tomboy, one of the lads, and I still really get along with lads now, but, when these new girls came in who were a bit older than me, there was no time for me. And I was pushed out of the group then, and I don't think it got really bad up until I was 11 and 12, and that was when, oh my God, things were really difficult. You know, my mum was up at the school a lot, and you know, there was no support from, like, you know, other people's parents. Like, I remember one girl's mom pulled me into a garden and basically said if I kept talking about how her daughter was bullying me, that something bad was going to happen to me. Like, it was horrendous.
So you were in a mixed school?
No, I was in an all girls school
Okay.
up the road in Killesser, but I had hung around with a mixed group.
Okay.
So yeah, so I suppose, although, you know, the start of this story has been a bit dark, the reason why I'm sharing it is because, you know, that whole experience taught me what it meant to actually be a good friend.
Yeah.
Because I was treated so badly that I was like, God, I'd never treat someone that way. And with that then, you know, as I got a little bit older and I went into secondary school and I made new friends, my life completely changed in the most beautiful way. And, you know, I was so passionate then about being my best self, to treat everyone with pure kindness, because I knew as a child how it felt to feel so alone.
Like, that's so, yeah, you knew, isn't that awful? Because as a child, like, that's something we're never supposed to feel is alone. You know, it's like everyone talks about, you know, childhood is the best days of your life, and it seems to be coming out when people are sharing their stories on podcasts nowadays. That just wasn't the case for so many people.
Mm.
Um, and so do you think your experience with that as a teenager is what ultimately led you to becoming a life coach? Is that you wanted to spend your time helping people who've maybe gone through what you've gone through?
Oh, literally, you've said it in one, you know. Oh my God, I think, you
The
know,
episode is now ended.
we'll just take this tape off your gas. But no, like, that's 100% correct. And there was always this, I've always been a very spiritual person. Even when I was a
Yeah.
kid, like, I was, now I would have considered myself very religious as a child because I was always speaking to God. But I thought that there was, well, I knew that there was a higher power.
Yeah.
And, you know, I used to always say to myself, this is happening because it's teaching me to be strong. And, you know, this is essentially putting hairs on my chest. And, like, to even have that understanding when you're going through something so difficult, I think is crazy.
Yeah.
And so with that then, you know, because of everything I went through, like, that 100% influenced the trajectory of my life to then wanting to become a life coach. And, you know, years before I ever wanted to do that, I wanted to be a forensic psychologist because sis loved Criminal Minds.
I love that for you.
And I thought
I
that,
think we all wanted to do that at one stage, though, didn't we?
oh my God. And, like, I swear to God, I jump when I hear a car beep at me. Like, I would not be cut out to go in and watch murders. I'd be sitting in the car going, no, you go in. I'll be here on my phone.
I did that as well, though. Like, I always had, and this wasn't even when I was a kid, this is like literally in the last few years. I'm like, I want to be a lawyer. I'd love to be a lawyer.
Mm.
If someone asked me to go into a prison and interview someone, I'd be like, no, no. I think I'll skip that part of the job.
Yeah. I feel bad for him. Let him out.
Yeah, yeah. Can I just wear the glamorous suit and show up to court, please?
Oh, it's giving Elle Woods.
So, one thing I'm so intrigued by that you speak about is a woman when she's in her masculine energy era.
Mm.
And I've seen so many videos on your Instagram page about this, and it intrigues me so much. Do you think there's ever a time when a woman, first of all, I want to know, you know, your kind of the definite, because I'd never really thought about masculine energy as a thing. I think, like, there's times in our life we need to be stronger than we do in other times.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to know kind of your definition of what masculine energy is, and then also, do you think there's a time in a woman's life where she needs to turn on her masculine energy? Can it be a good thing?
Oh, well, that's such a great question. I'd love to chat a little bit more about that, and I suppose to take it a little bit back for anyone who's listening, because, you know, when I speak about masculine and feminine energy, sometimes people think I'm talking about like whether a woman looks manly, and I'm like,
Yeah,
no.
no. That ain't it.
And I'm like, that's me when I haven't had a laser appointment.
Girl, me right now.
Oh, stop. No, so such a hairy individual I am. Got me a laser done on the weekend there. So like, I was like, lovely for the podcast.
Oh, French.
So I suppose for anyone who might be a little bit like, what does that mean? So we are energetic beings.
Yes.
And with that, you know, we have a beautiful constitution of masculine and feminine energy. And this is meant to be, you know, spoken about through the lens of yin and yang energy, right?
Okay.
So essentially we need to have both of them parts of us in a balance to feel balanced. And so for a woman who's in her masculine, I think there's some women out there who thrive in their masculine. You know, like this is innately how they should be showing up. And someone who's in their masculine is, you know, a very driven, focused, analytical, decision-making person. And that would be someone who's in their like healthy masculine. Okay, where you'll know it's healthy or whether it's in their wounded masculine when, you know, a woman might be experiencing burnout or a lot of self-doubt or, you know, significant stress, which I have a lot of experience, which I'll share in a sec. And then to explain the contrary, then you have feminine energy. So just from the standpoint of a woman, obviously, for this conversation, a woman in her feminine energy, she is in her flow. She is in this place of like presence, of trust, of surrender. She's just embodying this like nurturing, caring energy. And essentially what she touches turns to gold. You know, women are dominantly intuitive.
Yeah.
And this is why we talk about like a woman's intuition. And men are dominantly analytical. And this is where like they're coming from the place of you know, logic and decision making, etc. So
yeah.
So that's a little insight into, you know, the difference between the masculine and feminine energy, and the both of the sides of the coin that I've just described there are the healthy masculine and the healthy feminine. So the question you asked me, like when a woman is in her masculine and whether it's helpful, of course, like you're always going to be in both, okay, but there's going to be a dominant side. So like for me, sometimes when, you know, push comes to shove in my business and I'm I don't know why I do this to myself, but I launch 3 things at one go. I'm like,
Yeah.
why?
Oh.
Why?
I know, girl.
And when that happens, you know, you're in your masculine, okay? Like you are getting shit done. Like this is where you're.
This is why I wanted to talk about this, because when I heard you talk about it before, I kind of had a feeling. I knew there was a switch with how I was and how I was operating. But then when I heard you talk about it, I was like, I am balls deep in my masculine energy era right now. And my business needs it right now. It needs me to be, I believe, maybe I'll look back and be like, okay, I went a bit full throttle there, you know, with how I was, but I'm always on, you know, and I like, you know, I do feel like I'm totally in my masculine energy at the moment. And then I'm like, is that good? As much as my business needs me to be there right now, and I am there, I'm showing up for my business the way it needs me to, is that going to have an effect on me personally?
So that's a question for you to answer, right? And you'll be able to figure this out by asking, honestly, like, how do you feel?
I feel better than ever. I really do. I feel better than ever because I know I'm doing everything I need to do for my business. Like right now in my life, it's not about, you know, socializing and doing, like, you know, for, like, let's say I don't, like, the last time I had a drink was Christmas. The last time I think I've done anything socially was over the Christmas, and I don't feel like I need it. I don't miss it at all, because how can I not show up for my business?
Yeah.
Do you know? So no, I don't. But I was just like, I'm a little bit. I knew there was a shift in how I was operating, and I felt so much more assertive. How I feel is I feel like a boss woman.
Oh, love.
That's how I feel. Everything is going the way it should be because I'm putting in the work.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, if I'm a little bit confused about this, because I'm what I find with being in the masculine and feeling, what do you call it? Am I in my masculine era? Is it in my masculine energy? I feel like I'm saying it wrong, but things that nothing is bothering me. Like, I'm in the stage where I'm like, you're not interrupting me. Like, anything outside of my business.
Mm-hmm.
You're not getting in my way. You're not upsetting me.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I feel like I'm a little bit harsh almost. Do you know what I'm coming from?
Yes. So amazing to hear that you're feeling like incredible.
Thank
okay,
you.
so that's all that matters, right?
Yeah.
So the reason why I was asking that is because people can get confused, because obviously we're surrounded by all of these things online, and we might go to this place where we're doubting how we're showing up. But you can always come back and answer your own question by being like, how do I feel? Right? So if you feel like you are thriving, then that's all you need to know. All that signals to me, anyways, is that you are in this place where you're getting shit done, you're operating from your masculine, and you're not burnt out. Okay? Because when you're in your wounded masculine, we'll get burnt out, right? And it's where, like, we attach our self-worth to um outcomes, numbers, etc. So I'm going to give you an example of like how I was showing up in my business and in my wounded masculine, and how it impacted me. So over the Christmas, and long before that, I was leading up to introducing a 30-day program in January.
Yes.
And I was pushing. Like, I had 13 clients, and within my one-to-one space, it's so much more than just like one touch point a week. Like, I'm immersed in people's life. So
Yeah.
like, the energy that I pour into my clients is a lot. So then for me to also have been pushing this 30-day program, and then trying to get all these different things off the ground, from the back end stuff, the website, all of that, it was a lot. And so the reason why I got burnt out was because I became way too focused on the numbers. So rather than me just celebrating, like, okay, I'm after doing the thing I said I was going to do,
Yeah.
I was just looking at things from a lack. I was just like, oh, well, I anticipated X amount of people joining, and I'm only at this. And so with that, then, the stress was incredible. And my feminine was completely pushed to the side, because it's that feminine voice that would come through and say, look at the people who are here. Look at what you have to be grateful for.
Yeah.
Look at all of these beautiful things and that are in front of you, and take inventory of the magic in my life, rather than looking at things from a place of lack. And so that's how I knew that in that particular phase of my life and business, I was in my wounded masculine, and I was so attached to the numbers and the outcomes, rather than looking at things from a place of, look at what you've just created. Okay, look at, like, look at this thing from intuition that you have been able to develop, because you knew that this was something that you wanted to bring to the world. And so with that, then, I've spoken, like, I am so grateful that my skin has always been clear my whole life, and my skin has never been worse. And so that's my body's way of saying, like, babes, like, you need to calm the fuck down, and you need to slow down. And so now that I've jumped back into my place of femininity, where I have huge aspirations for myself and my business, don't get me wrong, but I'm no longer looking at things when, like, oh, we haven't achieved this amount of clients in the community by this time. I'm just like, no, I'm so grateful for the people who are here right now, and I'm going to do everything in my power to create the most beautiful experience for them. So now I'm in this place where the masculine and the drive has helped me to create a beautiful structure for my business to thrive, and then my feminine has allowed me to enjoy the process, to stop working till 11 p.m. at night, to stop skipping meals. Like, I'm back nurturing myself while running a very successful business. So that's a little example of the masculine and feminine energies, and how I was very much on one side of things, and now I'm back in my balance.
I love that. And can men have feminine energy?
Yes, men will always have a mix of masculine and feminine energy too. So, like, a man in it, yes.
No, I was just gonna say, I'm just kind of laughing in my head, thinking there's so many men out there that if you told them, like, oh, you're in your straight, not your straight, sorry, you're in your feminine energy, they'd be like, what?
Yeah.
But, so is it the same? I'm sorry for interrupting, but is it the same as sometimes a woman needs to be in her masculine energy? Is that vice versa? Is it the same for men with feminine energy?
Yeah, 100%.
What's a time when a man would be in their feminine energy?
So, totally agree what you're saying here, right? So first of all, any men who might be listening to this would be like, oh, does that mean like they go on like a woman?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. So a man in his like healthy feminine is okay to basically have emotions. Do you know what I mean? And that doesn't mean that they're like, you know, like having cries all the time or whatever. But basically, say for example, if a man who naturally they feel a lot more like anger and frustration, and they might not know like how to deal with it. Like a man in his healthy feminine like recognizes that, and they do whatever they need to do to be able to process the emotions within them. And then they also, by doing so, give their partner or other people in their life space to do the same. You know, at the overall top of this whole thing within a man is like a man in his healthy masculine, healthy feminine creates that sense of safety for their partner.
Okay.
And then someone who isn't, like, this is where, a man might have like a mother wound, and would be like very controlling of their partner, manipulative, or like, um doesn't create like a sense of safety for their partner, or like, like subconsciously puts their partner, if it's a male and female dynamic, into a like subconscious mother role.
Yeah.
And thinks like the woman is just nagging at them. So like again, that could be coming from a woman's like, unhealthy energy space as well. So it's extremely interesting. And all of these polarities, people attract each other like that in relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's mad.
That is mad. So a man who is a protector, that's actually coming from their feminine energy side and not their masculine energy side.
So it would be coming from the healthy masculine, but then in terms of like the emotional safety, that's coming from the feminine.
Okay,
energy.
Emotional safety.
Yeah, okay. And then like the physical safety, because like men typically are the protectors.
Yeah.
And since the dawn of time, they've had to go out and like take care of their people, take care of their family, etc. And so like, for me in my relationship, there was a time where I didn't feel safe, like not in terms of like how AJ treated me or anything like that, but like I just, there was just, I had so much stuff that I needed to work on, and he was the same. Yeah. And so with that, then we were both like constantly on edge around each other.
Okay.
So like, safety doesn't necessarily mean that you're in like immediate danger, but it's like if you can't relax, you're not creating that safe space. Whereas now we are both in a beautiful relationship, and we're both have done the work as individuals to come back together. And so the emotional safety, physical safety, everything is there, and it's taken our relationship to a whole new level.
That's amazing. And coming on to that subject of relationships, how this is something as you get older, I think we all figure out is how important it is to be a whole person for your partner. If you're missing something, if you are insecure, you're jealous, and you're looking for your partner to fill say if you're a really jealous person, if you're looking for your partner to fill the kind of insecurities that you have, I don't think it can be. I think you need to do it yourself. Mm-hmm. You can't rely on your partner to do that. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense.
Oh my God, it makes perfect sense. And I couldn't agree more. And with that, like I've learned that the hard way I've only been in 2 relationships, and I've learned that in my current one and then in my first one as well. When we go into relationships, I think we have this ideology that this perfect person is going to come in, they're going to know exactly how to treat us, they're going to know exactly what to say, how to meet our needs, and we don't have to do anything but sit back and essentially receive and allow them to fill our cup up. And that's the most delusional, lack of responsibility mindset that we have all fallen into the trap in. And I mean, like, me included. Yeah. I used to think like, oh, when I have a partner, and I have a great partner, which I do, and this is like a few years ago when we were starting out, I was like I don't have to work on myself, like, because he's just going to make me happy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm the same. In that I've only ever had 2 relationships, one when I was literally 19, and then the current one I'm in now. Yeah. And it's crazy even though I was so young, it never would have worked out anyways. But looking back, just it goes back to, you can't put an owl head on young shoulders.
Yeah.
Isn't that the saying? It never would have worked out. The work I had to do on myself, it was never going to be a successful relation. Not that if a relationship breaks up, it's not successful, but you just have to be. I was incapable of being happy by myself at that age, so it was never. I had to figure out how to be in this world and be happy by myself. I'm a big believer in that. And then I also wanted to touch on, like, I'm a firm believer that we all need to have a purpose in our life that has nothing to do with, our relationship, or even like children. Like, I just think that everyone should have something to get them up out of the bed every day that has nothing to do with another person. That's my belief anyways. From your knowledge as a life coach, what's your take on that? Do you think it is healthy to rely on, say, a partner, or if you have children, and do you think it's healthy to rely on them for purpose?
Oh my God, that's such a great question. I'm literally having a conversation with someone in the DMs about this now.
Okay.
She literally said to me, she was like, I have a husband, I have kids, and she was like, I've never felt so alone.
Yeah.
She's like, I always thought that when I had children that, that would solve everything.
Yeah.
But again, like I just mentioned, and what you shared about the relationships and finding a partner, we can get so attached to these outcomes or stages of life and think that when we get there that we've gotten there. Do you know what I mean? That we're happy, that we're fixed. And oh my God, it is the farthest thing from the truth. There's lots I want to share in terms of like purpose. I really
dive
into purpose.
Let's dive.
So this is a huge one, right? So the first question you asked me in terms of like, finding your purpose, whether that's in the role of like motherhood, with a partner, in your business, etc. So naturally, we all have roles that we play in the various areas of our life. But the thing is, right, and I only learned this like, I'd say a year ago, is that our purpose is actually to just be who we are. Our purpose is to find our authentic self and embody who we are at our core from the inside out. And people can think like, oh, I do that. And I'm like, well, let me ask you this question. So I'm going to ask you, and then the lovely ears who are chiming in. Like, what parts of you have you ever felt that you had to hide because you were afraid of how you might have been perceived?
Oh God, how much time do we have? Every part. Like, I don't like substance. No, sorry. I love substance. What I don't like is non-substance conversation. I don't know if that's the word. That might be what I'm talking about. Is,
I know what you mean.
do you know what I mean? I hope
you love a DMC.
I love a DMC. That's what I love. I don't need to talk about the weather. We're in Ireland. If you're in Europe, it's probably raining. So let's just not bother talking about it. Like, I want to get to, when I'm talking to someone, I'm like, who are you? Tell me who you are. Do you know? And a lot of people, people who I'm close to, they'll be like, some people, like my mom will sometimes tell me, some people don't want to talk that deep. They just want to talk about the surface level. That's what I was trying to get. They want to talk about, and like she says it in the nicest way, and I know where she's coming from because she is right. Some people don't want to go there, but I find the majority of people do actually want to go there.
I literally walked in here and then you were like, here's a bottle of water. What starts on you? Libra bitch. You're like, I'm Scorpio but Aquarius, and I'm like still Scorpio.
Literally. So that's something I've always found, that I'm really conscious. Sometimes when I'm talking to someone, I to like, so they don't think I'm being self-absorbed, I'll be like, am I boring you? Like, are you bored? I always ask people that conversation. I always ask people that question, because I think I'm just a bit a bit self-conscious if it's too much. Too much.
Well,
I'm kind of I'm an all or nothing person. So,
mhm.
and I'm very aware that some people aren't into that.
Yeah.
So I just kind of get up every day and hope that the universe brings me to my people.
Yes.
You know, rather than not, so I'm not annoying anybody.
And here we are, honey.
Here we are. Here we are putting it on Spotify and YouTube.
But this is it, right? So, like, this quest you're going on now, you know, having amazing conversations, doing the thing that you fucking love. You are giving a voice to the younger versions of you who were probably once terrified to do this, you know?
Yeah.
And, like, I also, like you, have a belief around being too much. Now, thankfully, that doesn't exist in me anymore. But, like, my whole life, I was told that I was a weirdo, I was strange, I was annoying, and like as a teenager, then young adults, then I believed that I was too much. And I, like you, avoid surface level conversations. I operate on a deep level.
Yeah.
And like I actually know from psychology that, you know, people who go straight into these things and are real like orientated around the universe and astrology and all, like typically didn't feel understood as a child. And it makes so much sense for me because I try to understand everyone I meet and I want to know like everything about them. I want to know their deepest, darkest secrets and just allow them to be so vulnerable with me. And you know, God, I'm going so deep here. But
Go
like
for it, girl.
oh, as always.
We could die tomorrow.
We could. Well please God, because I'm doing the food shop today. Be wasting money. But like it's so important. And you know, going back to the question I asked you around the parts of you that you may feel like you had to hide, like if you ever think that you're too much, you know, what I'm hearing is that like you're expressing yourself authentically and you're being who you are. And maybe there's like a younger version of you that needs to catch up and be like, it's okay for us to be who we are and let go of this narrative that we're too much in any conversation, because you know when you are your authentic self, like you're fucking magnetic. And like similarly at that event, you know, you're one of the only girls I spoke to and I was like, this girl's amazing. Do you know what I mean? Like you're so beautiful, like you've such a lovely energy about you and you were so kind and you were like, let's do a shot. I was like, I'm driving, so no. But
oh, I remember that.
Yeah, but wow, like, you know.
But now that you're saying that, and all you need is one person. This is why I love conversations like this. Because when you asked me that just there, what are you, I can't remember the exact words, but what are you kind of, what do you doubt yourself in? It's like, I was a bit afraid to say like, I think I'm too much. But now that you're after saying like, that's something I dealt with, I'm like, I have no fear about it. Now I don't, do you know, now I feel like I can be like, that's literally, and it's different times of my life when sometimes, most of the time I'm like, I don't care, take me as I am. If you don't like it, you know, no one's forcing you to be here. But it is something, and I'm kind of like, oh, I'm 27, when does that go away? Because there's so many parts of myself that I absolutely adore. But it's just that, I think it is that kind of little voice in the back of my head that's like, just calm down. You know, like you don't always have to be so out there. But I don't know how to not be out there.
Yeah.
As well.
Exactly. So like again, you know, it's this narrative between your soul and your ego, right? So your soul is your authentic self is the voice of your soul, right? And like as I said, our purpose in life is basically to return home to who we are and to bring all of these things that we've repressed or pushed down or forgotten about to the surface. And this in a psychological term is called self-actualization. Okay. And this is coming from Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And Maslow was one of the founding fathers within the psychology world.
Yeah.
And he talks about how like we have a pyramid of needs. So at the bottom we have our basic needs like food, water, shelter, warmth. And it continues to go up into emotional needs like safety, love, connection. Now there's a lot more in this, so I'm not reciting it by heart.
Yeah, I did a bit about Maslow's hierarchy of needs in college. Now I may as well actually not know because I couldn't tell you one thing about it. So I'm enjoying the little recap you're giving me.
Oh, fabulous. And it's great for people to understand as well, you know, And I'll get into that in a sec, but at the top of the pyramid is self-actualization, and only 5% of the population actually get there. And they spend their whole life getting there, right?
Okay.
And self-actualization is where you have literally embodied the person that you are meant to be. And that doesn't mean that I think if I'm self-actualized, I'll be a doctor. It's no. It's about working throughout your whole life, peeling back the layers that your ego and your shadow have caused you to put up and to protect you and, stop you from feeling shame. And it's about allowing yourself to just be who you are in full authentic expression. So like you mentioned there, I'm 27, when will this end? The thing is, right, and self-actualization, authenticity journey, it never ends, because there's going to be parts of you in 10 years time that you never even realized existed, and you're like, I'm ready to bring this to the world now. And as we continue to navigate life with the different roles that we take up, like you're business bitch at the moment and you're in a partnership and all of that, and then in a couple of years, maybe if you're open to this, maybe you're going to be a wife, maybe you're going to have kids, like, so like there's going to be parts of you that you don't even realize exist that will come to the surface. So we just have to be like, okay, my journey towards becoming me is going to be a lifelong one, and I accept that, and I no longer like feel this, okay, when is this like, little self-doubt voice creeping in, when's that going to go? It's like your job now is to not forget about that, it's to manage it when it comes up and speak to that voice and say, it's okay babes, like it's safe for us to be who we are, it's safe for me to open up to this person and to be vulnerable, because as you said, like by me saying about the worried about being too much, that gave you permission to do that too. So the more that you're authentic, you give another person the permission to be authentic as well.
Absolutely. And I think that's why that's why I do it as well, why I love being so open, and I never, as self-conscious as I get about it sometimes, I'm always like, no, I'd much rather be the way I am than the other way. Because sometimes like someone will ask me like, oh my god, you have such a close relationship with all your clients, like, and how do you, like, I'll come in from work and I'll say to my family, oh, I was talking to just the most loveliest girl today, and she was telling me about this and that, and not that I'll be like spilling people's life stories, I'll just give the subject, that we're talking about. My sister would be like, how do you get that out of people? Like, you just met her, like, how do you? And I'm like, because I'm open. Like, when you're open, I always find it's very, very, very rare that people aren't open and honest back at you.
Yeah.
So if I want to build a connection with someone, I'm not going to sit there and just expect them to tell me their life story, not share anything about me.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like, again, you're giving people permission to just be who they are, and like that is, it doesn't matter about any hard skills in the world or anything else. Like, if you can create that space for someone else, that is the most magical thing in my eyes, and the most magical thing that anyone can bring to this world is to help another person feel safe in their own skin.
Absolutely. And like we were talking about before we started this, is that's where my need to do this podcast came from, because I would just have the most amazing conversations with my clients, and they pick me up so much on days when I haven't been feeling my best.
Aww.
And they I always say it to them, but if but some of them they won't even know, and that's why I was like, imagine I could get, every week we have the podcast and it's just an open and honest conversation between two people, and it's bound, it's like, it's so cringe, but everyone says, if it helps one person, but it's so true.
So true. Yeah,
it's so true. So moving on to another subject that I want to ask you about, kind of getting into maybe more mental health struggles. You work with a broad range of people. You work with, it isn't just women you work with, am I right?
Yeah, I've had a couple of male clients, and like originally I'd always centered it around women, and when the male clients came knocking, I was like, Sorcha, you need to go with this.
Yeah.
So here we are.
Of course. And so you work with a broad range of people, and I want to know, is there similarities, without giving obviously the personal information of your clients, is there similarities in what people are struggling with these days? Let's say our generation, the kind of mid to late 20s, are we all struggling with the same things? And do you think are there generational struggles that you're seeing?
Oh my god, such a fab question.
I'm so excited to ask you.
Also, I'm like so chill. So, I have literally worked with the most diverse range of people.
Yeah.
And I think we always hear like niche down, and I hear that all the time, and it's like, I don't have to, because the commonality that I have seen across every single person I've worked with is that when their relationship with themselves is broken, it impacts every aspect of their life. And for someone who's listening, I think like, you know, what is the relationship with yourself?
Yeah.
Again, like, it's crazy to think that we don't even know how to answer this.
Yeah, because we are living in ourselves 24 hours a day for however long we've been on this earth. And even I just thought to myself, how would I answer that question? And I kind of went a little bit blank.
Well, allow me to fill in that blank. So the relationship with yourself, essentially, right, couple of prompts here, you know, how do you treat yourself? How do you speak to yourself? How do you give yourself space to process what you're going through? You know, do you say yes when you want to say no? How do you honour your boundaries? How do you meet your needs? It's all of these beautiful things that always bring it back to you and how you treat you as a whole. And so people often think, right, oh my god, like, you know, I bring myself to the spa and I go and do like go on a shopping day and stuff like that, and that's great. But like, when you're doing stuff like that, you're really only targeting like the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You're kind of just attacking the physical needs here. You know, we all love a little clothes haul, we all love a little spa day, but again, we have to go further than the things outside of us. We have to look internally. And you know, people can have all of the beautiful things in the world, and you know, like for me, I had the amazing career. I was earning so much money in my corporate job. I had amazing friends, partner. I was dyeing my hair blonde, which I thought was always going to save my life. Like, where does that come from?
I know. I've even tried to dye my hair blonde.
Oh Jesus!
No, I look like David Bowie.
And as well, like, you know, always buying myself all these things, and like never actually leaning into the fact that on the inside, like, I was not okay. And you know, I was really struggling with anxiety.
Yeah.
The shame I felt for being who I was paralyzing.
I know, that shame that you just feel to be a human, and it's you know it's wrong. Mm-hmm. I don't know anyone who's ever felt that, me included, that knows there's that little voice that's like, Rachel, this is all, like, you actually are a good person.
Mm-hmm.
But that shame, and it's like, what is it? I know what it is, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. So shame is the most powerful, paralyzing emotion, and it will make us do crazy things, which includes, from the lens of the relationship with yourself, totally ignoring the work that needs to happen within. And so, like, you know, as I said, I feel on the outside like I had everything, but on the inside I was unable to honour a promise I'd made to myself. You know, like, even simple things like, I'm going to go and I'm going to get fresh air every day, and I'm going to eat healthy today. Like, all of that would be forgotten about, and instead I'd just be driven by this deep feeling of shame and guilt, and then I'd go the opposite. I wouldn't leave the house, or I'd just go on a binge eating sprawl. And you know, that is literally one minute example of how, when someone's relationship with themselves is broken, how they show up in their life, you know. And like, you know, the work I do and that commonality I've seen across every single person is that people are carrying shame and guilt and parts of themselves that they either don't even realise exist, or that they know they exist but they are way too terrified to bring that person to the surface. And with that, then they're operating life with a mask on. And you might have heard that term before, like when people have like two faces, and that's not where they're like bitchy and have two faces. It's where they show up as this inauthentic version of them to fit in to a certain person around certain people, like a social chameleon.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I was one of them.
Oh my God. Every time I'd hang out with a new group, my mum would be like, your accent's after changing. I would literally change my voice.
Yeah.
I would literally change my voice because, and I would be like I would literally be like, no, I haven't. You know, I'd be like, no, I'm talking the exact same. And everyone in my house, my mum, my dad, my brother, they'd all be like, why are you talking like that? And I would have convinced myself that that was my accent and it hadn't changed. I would change my clothes, everything, hairstyles.
Mm-hmm.
It's mad, isn't it?
No, literally, I'm the exact same. We actually have so much similarities.
I know.
Again, but you know, like attracts like, and that's why I'm here getting my lashes done.
Yeah.
So with that, you know, when we have this belief about ourselves, or whether that we're not like, I'm not assuming for you, I'm only speaking for myself here. I never felt worthy, and a part of me felt very unlovable as well. And we've three core, let me think about this for a sec. Three core beliefs, right? Lovability, worthiness, and capability, right? So, you know, are you, like, whether you feel like you're competent to do something, and you can see if you don't, how that would really impact people in skill and beyond their whole life. You know, are you lovable? Then if someone doesn't think they're lovable, how this would impact their relationships. They're going after the fucking pricks, because they believe they deserve no better. Like, are you worthy? No. Then you're going after the things that, you know, you're constantly playing small. You don't feel like your authenticity or your presence is valid anywhere. So, you know, that's the driver of our behaviour. Like, our beliefs completely drive how we show up in the world. And so, for me, I had very unhelpful, quite very broken relationship with myself, and my beliefs in terms of my lovability, my worthiness, they were not strong. And it completely showed up in all aspects of my life. My career, my former relationship, my friendships, like everything. And, you know, in terms of me having to like bring all of that to the surface and recognise where this was coming from, that's what set into motion then me beginning to like heal the relationship with myself, and going back and like healing my inner child, because all of these happen when you're a child.
Yeah.
And then they're compounded throughout your life. So it's not just some, you know, people say, oh, this happened to me when I'm 20. I'm like, okay, let's talk about when you were 5 years of age. And then they're like, oh fuck, I remember now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, you know?
I resonate with this so much. And what's coming to my mind right now, when I was a kid, I was such a liar. I lied all the time. Not bad lies, like stuff to impress my friends, because seeing them be happy or smile because of something I did. Like, I remember, like, I would say, like my dad works in the airport, and I would be like, oh yeah, my dad met Girls Aloud yesterday. And he didn't. Like, but I would say these things because my friends were like, oh my God, Rachel, that's so cool. Like,
yeah,
you know, and did he get you their order? Of course he did. Yeah, you know,
gosh.
It's like just silly things like this.
Mm-hmm.
And thankfully I've done the work. That's not a part of me anymore. It'd be a little bit worrying if I was still doing that at 27.
That's so funny.
But just innocent little things as a kid that, and you look back and you're like, that's what I was doing. I was so eager to please.
Yeah, well, just cut yourself a bit of slack to know, like, kids do that.
Yeah.
So, like, for anyone here who's listening, I don't have another brother. I never went to Disneyland, and I didn't see Santa Claus. Okay. I said all that shit, and I was like, Santi was on my roof, said hello.
Yeah, the
like,
whole shebang.
God. Yeah, and you know, we overcompensate as kids, like that's completely normal. And you know, like going back to that like mask that I was talking about, and you know, I've worked with so many people who don't even realise that they have this like inauthentic version of them, and believe me when I say, people hear that and they're like, I'm not fake, and I'm like, I know you're not fake.
Yeah.
it's an inauthentic way, is in there's parts of you that you have repressed, whether they're beautiful or they're not beautiful, because you felt that you can't share them. So like, in kind of vanilla way to explain this is like a child could be really good at art, but their family values from their parents are so like academic driven, and so that they might tell the child like, no, like we don't, like that's a waste of time, like throw that artboard away. And then the child grows up to believe that like they have to perform in academic senses to be like loved and accepted, and like their creativity streak is completely repressed. And then you know this is just, I'm pulling this example out of the air here, but like a client could come to me then, and when we're getting really clear on who they are and what their values are, it could be like, well, creativity is something that really their intuition is pulling them to create more of in their life, but they're like feel that they can't, and that they can't make time for it, or that they won't be accepted for it. And so this is where like I come in to help people to recognize what parts of you have you hidden, what parts of you felt like you weren't good enough. And that's when we go and we heal the younger versions of them that hid, that felt like, oh my god, I have to be this certain way to be accepted. And it's absolutely incredible work, because then when I finish with clients, they're creating a life that feels like them. And that's what happiness is. Like, we spoke a lot about purpose, and our purpose is, it's not found in our job, it's not found in our business, our roles, like they're a part of us. But our purpose is when we are who we are, like we are expressing ourselves exactly as our soul has led us to, and it's not where we feel like we have to change in any situation, or we have to hide certain parts of us. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you can start being an absolute terror and talking about all these horrible things that's going to upset someone just because you're speaking your truth. Like, have a bit of common sense there. But it's like, you can still do that, you know what I mean? Obviously just be aware that you're going to upset someone. But if that's what your version of your truth is, like, okay, like my job isn't to tell you what's right or what's wrong. It's just to give you this space to guide you back to who you are. And you might have heard in spirituality, like returning home, like that's the work we do.
Okay. Returning home, I've never heard of that.
Returning home to yourself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that kind of like inner child stuff, when you go to meet your inner child and you heal all the things that are, not fixed?
Yeah.
Is that, or is the inner child a totally different thing altogether? Because I know inner child is a massive, like there's a lot in it. It's not a quick fix. It's not something that you delve into in therapy straight away.
Yeah, it's definitely not a quick fix. But that would be one element of the work I do, is the inner child. Like, I look at all different parts of the psyche, so we just do work to integrate the shadow. So people often get terrified when they hear the word shadow because of the the things we see online. But the shadow is the parts of you that essentially have like suppressed parts of you that you thought were wrong. So like, here's how I'm going to bring this to light. So what is it that you dislike in another person? Honestly. For me, I hate dishonesty. I hate when someone's rude, right?
Yeah, and so, rudeness.
Oh, fucking can't stand it,
The
right?
worst.
So whatever it is that we don't like in another person, or we might find ourselves judging them, because we all judge whether we want to admit it or not. That's how we're hardwired from an evolutionary point of view to protect ourselves. The things that we dislike in another person, that's our shadow, and our shadow has suppressed those parts of us, and will say things like, oh, I'd never be rude, I'd never be dishonest. So for me, you can see how I was such a people pleaser. Like, I could have had fucking glass in my food and I'd be chewing it, blood spitting out me gob. Lovely! Thank you! All have the capability to be that way. We just choose not to be.
Yeah.
That's our shadow. And so, like, with that, obviously, the shadow work that I do, it doesn't mean that I bring dishonesty out of someone, or that I bring judgmentalness, that's not the word, judgments, that's the word, out of someone. Of course not. But there's parts of you within that aren't, like, how do I say, that are socially acceptable from your point of view, that you've been choosing to hide. And so with that, then, we bring those parts of someone out and help them to accept the fact that, yes, you have a shadow. Yes, there's a part of you that may be judgmental. Yes, there's a part of you that could be dishonest. So that they no longer carry this like shame for potentially slipping back into these ways of being. So like for me, I know myself that I have always been quick to judge when I was younger because I was so judged. And so that was like built in me. And then when I was obviously starting to become more conscious and do the work, whenever I found that I'd naturally judge someone, even though I'd never say it, I'd be like putting myself down and think I'm a terrible, terrible person. But
Yeah.
the reality is that like, no, 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 no. That's just like a natural neurological response that's happened there. And now I'm going to talk myself back down and realize you're not passing judgment out of like a place of meanness. You know, it's okay. You know, what part of you might you be projecting onto that person? Do you know what I mean? And so like that's the shadow work that comes in. So the next time
Yeah.
that you are either judging someone or you're
Yeah.
judging yourself, it's like, no, 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 I forgive myself for this. And
Yeah.
honestly, it creates so much more like balance and flow in someone's life as well. But that's like another part of the work I do would be the shadow work as well.
Okay. So, because I feel like that was such a meaty question, so I just kind of want to round it up. So, the question I asked was like, what are you seeing that people are struggling with most today? So, seems to be a lot of things from childhood, and not necessarily people don't have to have a bad childhood to have things they need to work on. That's what I've realized as well.
Mm-hmm.
um but I mean, I had an amazing childhood, but I was always a worrier. Like, I was always a really not a worried child, but it didn't take much to shake me,
Yeah.
and I had an amazing childhood, but there's so many things that I've been doing just naturally since I was a kid that weren't serving me,
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know? And through being in therapy for a lot of years, I realised that. Um, so I think as well, we talked a little bit about shame and feeling shame.
Mm.
Um, would you say that's something that people are struggling with a lot as well? Is getting rid of kind of a feeling of shame that they couldn't really answer you why they have. Like, they don't even really know.
Oh my God, yeah, like 100%. And I'm not surprised that we've gone on such big tangents because my middle name is Tangent. But I
Literally.
think that's what happens when you have such a conversation of depth. Like you go down every
You
single
just,
avenue.
yeah.
So to follow up on what you're saying about shame, like oh my God, as I said, it is the heaviest. And when we're working with shame to release that energy, because I do energy work as well, it's always black. And someone described it before. It was like all of these like scribbles on a whiteboard and or blackboard and that like graphic feeling of like grit, like a Brillo pad. Like oh my God,
Yeah.
uh, it's so overbearing on someone.
Yeah.
And with that, people carry a lot of shame, and shame because it's so heavy, it completely directs people's behavior, whether that's in a avoidant way or a place where they're going to numb themselves, right? So
Yeah.
like shame can make people avoid a lot of things. Shame can make you avoid saying yes to opportunities, saying like going for something that you feel really aligned with, or
Yeah.
like putting yourself out there. Like this was, for example, this podcast would have been something that naturally brings up anxiety and
Yeah. Yeah.
things within you, and like thankfully the parts of you which we all have, that shame that may exist or fear or something, it didn't hold you back. But, for a lot of people I've worked with, it has.
Yeah.
And people don't really realize where it's coming from either. And so that's where we do a lot of the inner child work and the belief system work to help them to understand like where's that coming from, because then we need to heal that shame by reframing that memory in their subconscious mind and then dissolving that energy. So like for me, I always carried any energy within me. I like you, I was a real worrier. And so when I talk about helping clients to dissolve the energy, this is where like we focus on the energy in the body and we let it go. Because when we don't and we don't process it, or we shut down or we run away from things, the energy just stays there within us. And sometimes it can make life feel absolutely impossible.
Absolutely. It can make it feel so much heavier
Mm-hmm.
than it needs to be. I feel like, especially when you're struggling with your mental health, it's like a black mass that you're covering, that you're carrying around on your back.
Yeah.
And I it's just it's crap thinking there's so many people so many good people walking around, you know, feeling like that, that don't need to.
Yeah, exactly. And so, when the first step is always like recognizing, okay, like there's a part of me that feels like a deep sense of shame here. And shame is, as I said, like, oh my God, a huge driver in how we behave. And so because our ego, another part of the psyche that I work with, is allergic to shame, like, oh, it remembers all of the times when you were younger that you felt shame,
Yeah.
and it refuses to let you feel that way again, because the ego always wants to be right, um thinks that other people's opinions are incorrect, etc. And avoids shame like as much as it can. So with that, people don't realize that when they're going through like periods of shame, or in certain moments, like say for example they're in a work environment and they just constantly feel like they're being judged, that's their ego trying to protect them. And so, like, that's one thing that we do is help people to see, like, why this shame is here. It's trying to remind you, like, we've been hurt before.
Yeah.
We don't want to be hurt again, and I'm going to remind you of this to keep you safe. And so, like, people then go from this place of, oh my God, I hate myself and I put myself down, to like, oh, like, I'm just trying to protect myself here, and it's okay. Like, I'm going to do what I need to do in this moment to remind myself that I'm okay. And that's where reparenting the inner child comes in. Like, this is where we help people to tap into their whys in our parent. So, like, I would always say to someone, would you speak to yourself, would you speak to a child the way you speak to yourself? No.
I say this to myself all the time. And what I also think, one thing I say to myself, and I think it's a good thing, is if you saw another woman, another person, another man, whoever, doing what you're doing, you would think they're amazing.
Mm-hmm.
You would think they're fantastic. If you saw it, if whenever I see someone starting up their business, I text them, I say it to them any way I can. I'm like, go girl.
Aww.
But it's so important.
Yeah.
And I think there's so many amazing people out there that give themselves such a hard time. And I do think being hard on yourself to a certain extent does keep you motivated.
Mm-hmm.
I think, like, for me, I am my harshest critic, and I think I do think it plays a part in why I get so much done, and how I can go from having a vision to having it in motion in less than like a couple of days or a week or whatever. So I do think it plays a part. It has its place being hard on yourself and having high expectations, but I think there's a lot of people that take it to the extreme, and I in the past have taken it to the extreme where you're just, I could have the best day and everything could go right, and I'd be like, well, that was a lot of shit, that was a failure.
Yeah.
I mean, really, that was all we could get done today, like.
Mm-hmm.
So it's such an interesting, and just that one word, shame, and you can open up a world of conversation on it.
Yeah. No, definitely. And like what you just said there, um we can be disciplined and driven and focused, and it's like people may not realize, okay, am I operating from a place of empowerment or shame here? It's like, well, how do you feel? Like, do you feel like what you're doing is enough? Like, do you put yourself down? Do you constantly like operate from a place of lack, or what you didn't do or what you didn't achieve? Or are you operating at the same level and you're getting shit done as well, but you're like, fair play to me, I'm doing a great job. Okay, I made a little mistake here or blunder here, and this is how I'm going to improve. And so, like, we'll always be able to come back and ask ourselves whether it's coming from a healthy place, or maybe we need to, pull back and be like, okay, like, let's be kinder to ourselves here. Because I'm like you, like, I'm a perfectionist. Like, I'm extremely driven and I get my shit done. Do you know what I mean? But I'm very careful now, because I slipped back into that place over the Christmas where my worth was tied up in how many people came onto this program. And I was like, Sorcha, like, just because 1,000 people didn't join, I was like, if your goal was 70 people, you fucking got your goal.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? I was like, that's 70 people who trust you, 70 people who support you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Rather than just being like, oh, I didn't get 1,000. Like, that was a terrible idea anyways. So it's stuff like that,
Yeah, absolutely. And that is something I want to talk about as well. You've just launched your You Are the Oyster community. I got so excited about this when I saw you launch this, because it's so exciting. I've never seen it be done in Ireland. I've never seen a subscription like this before. So tell me about it. Are you so happy?
Oh, you're so sweet.
No, seriously, it's so exciting. And I've never seen a subscription like it. It's amazing. And just what you have included in it is incredible. It's amazing. So tell me about it.
Oh, thank you so much.
I know all about it anyways. I'm obsessed with it. But and I'm obsessed with you. But tell me again.
Of course. Oh, I'm so happy. So diving it back to the concept, you know, I'm a community gal. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I as I said, like, I know what it feels like to one, either feel on your own, but also I know what it feels like to be going on a journey where you need the people around you.
Yeah.
And like, while I had great friends and stuff, like, sometimes there was a part of me that felt like I wish I had have met more people who I was able to, like, go on this journey with. And so, you know, community and building a, like, group of people who are able to empower themselves together was always at the back of my mind. And so, like, over the last year and a half, I've really worked to build myself from a one-to-one coaching point of view. And then towards the end of 23, I was like, right, I'm ready to birth You Are the Oyster to life.
Yeah.
And so, you know, the concept itself, like, we've heard the term the world is your oyster.
Yeah.
And again, I think that goes back to this belief that we need to constantly look outside of ourselves for happiness. You know, oh, when I have a job title, I'll be happy. Or when I'm earning 80K a year, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
When I have a relationship, I'll be happy. Like, I reached all of these milestones that I was, like, setting out for myself.
Yeah.
And nothing ever changed because I was unhappy. And, like, all of these things are, like, nothing more, honestly, than, like, a temporary dopamine hit, because
Yeah,
we constantly go, we go back to our baseline then. And my baseline was shame. Do you know what I mean? Like, my relationship with myself was broken, and I was like, bitch, the world is not your oyster. Like, you are the fucking oyster.
Yeah.
Because you are responsible for creating your life.
Yeah.
For owning your happiness, for taking responsibility for you. And, like, stop looking for it in AJ. Stop looking for it in this salary. And with that, I was just like, Bill. So that's the philosophy that I'm trying to teach people, is that they've everything they ever need within them.
Yeah.
You know?
And obviously that comes back to purpose and knowing and feeling that the purpose is all actually it only has to be to do with you. It doesn't need to come from anywhere else.
Yeah, because I've had people work with me, and when we start, they're like, oh, it's just, I just don't feel like I'm doing enough with my life. And, you know, I'm like, oh my God, that's because we've been conditioned to believe that we have to have this amazing, people honestly believe our job title is our purpose. Like, they do.
Yeah.
And, like, and I'm trying to help change that, because don't get me wrong, I am a career driven person and I adore what I'm doing, but that's an extension of me. You know what I mean? And by me being able to, like, express myself authentically in my career and my business, that's what's going to make me happy. I left a corporate job because I felt like I had to change who I was to be accepted in there. I was even told that my accent was going to hinder me in my career. And yeah, I was just sick of talking about fucking coffee and the weather.
Yeah.
Couldn't do it.
I've been in that corporate setting before and it's so depressing. Like, I remember I used to be a receptionist in a corporate job, and, like, people would be coming down at, like, 10 in the morning. Oh God, we're nearly there. Like, just the negativity. And I'm like, guys, this isn't right. Like, this isn't. And I think a lot of people have that struggle mentality. That, you know, we were all struggling, we're all just trying to get through, and it's just not, no, it can't be that way, you know?
Yeah. I think a lot, I'm going to go finish the You Are the Oyster in a sec, but just to add to this, something I noticed, I think a lot of people who don't know who they are and throw themselves into a corporate job for whoever amount of years with their life, they then become so consumed with how they show up in there because they've no fucking idea who they are outside of that 9 to 5. But it's not a 9 to 5. It's a 9 to 9. It's a weekend. Yeah. And, like, I've seen people kill themselves, like, genuinely, like, I mean, like,
no, I know, overworking
themselves, you know, complete burnout, like, literally needing heart operations from the stress. And it's crazy. And, like, these people look so sad. And don't get me wrong, that's completely painting everyone with the same brush, and I'm not trying to do that, because I have also met incredible people who are so passionate what they're doing and were so good to me and believed in me, and I'm so fucking grateful for them, because I'll always remember them.
Yeah.
So it's not everyone, but I know that can be a theme when people are stuck in the corporate slug, when they're a slave to the machine and they're just a number. Okay,
Yeah.
that's really difficult. And I was like, I'm not doing this. I was like, I'm destined for more, and I'm confident to say that. Do you know what I mean? Without feeling ashamed or feeling like I'm too much, and I would not have been able to say that about myself a year ago.
Yeah.
But we go back to the community. So that's where You Are the Oyster came from. And in terms of what we have on the table now, God, you can hear my stomach grumbling. LOL. But she hasn't eaten in 2 hours. God, I'm a pig in the best way.
Girl, don't even say that.
Oh no, I don't mean.
I know.
We won't include that one. So You Are the Oyster community. So as I said, I wanted to create a space for people who are on a self-development mission to become the best version of them. Okay, so we'll be looking at things from all areas. Okay, like obviously I come from a psychology background, but I'm a spiritual girly. So we'll be looking at all things from their anxiety, from their confidence levels, helping them to believe in themselves, all the way through to their ability to manifest, like looking at the work of Joe Dispenza, etc. And then we'll also be looking at helping people to up-level their finances, their business, their health. So it's this holistic way for people to really become the ideal version of them.
Yeah.
Um,
It sounds like a complete overhaul, but in a healthy way, like a really healthy, not rushed way.
Yeah, exactly. That's a really good point, right? And that's something I've seen even with my one-to-one angels, is that like people can kind of be like, oh my God, right, I've 3 months or I've 6 months to become XYZ. And I'm like,
Yeah.
no. I'm like, the work happens outside of our time together. The work happens beyond our relationship as a client coach, and so with this community, it's giving people the space to, like, as you said, become the best version of them in a very achievable way. So every month we have a different theme. So for February, our theme is all about healthy relationships and having the most perfect relation. Well, I suppose there is no perfect. Whatever version of perfect is to you, through healing their relationship with yourself.
Okay.
And so how we do this is I'm going to be coaching people through a book. And for this month, we have an incredible book lined up called How to Be the Love You Seek, by an American psychologist, Dr. Nicole LePera.
Mm-hmm.
And people will be familiar with her work, How to Do the Work. She's a million copy bestseller. She's amazing.
Wow.
And she's on Instagram at the Holistic Psychologist, and she is phenomenal. So definitely recommend her. So I'll be coaching people through the chapters of the book, and with that, I'm delivering an audiobook podcast. And if you haven't already gotten the vibe, we love telling stories and being funny. So like it's this way for people to, actually finish a self-development book, because how often do we read 20 pages and use it as a tea coaster?
Yeah, I know.
Like no more. And every month we'll be reading a new book, so it's very achievable. And I'm coaching them through it, we're having a laugh, etc. And then there's a workshop lined up by me. So this month the workshop is all about healing your inner child to help you stop getting hurt in your relationships, because people don't realize the inner child and the dynamics that we went through as a child are completely mirrored in our romantic relationships, and we subconsciously step back into that child's self. So like I'm teaching people to recognize where they might be doing that and how they can heal the parts of them that need to be healed, so that they can show up as a better version of them in their relationship.
Yeah. That sounds amazing.
Oh, I'm very excited. And then we've a guest speaker. So
I was just going to say, you've guest speakers every month.
Yeah, I'm so excited. So this is something I've had on my manifestation list for, say, at least a year. This month we're joined by Lisa McFarlane. So she is the UK and Ireland's leading relationship coach, and she'll be providing a masterclass on all things healthy relationships. So, every month I bring in an expert in the industry, and to really like help people to take their learnings one step further. And then I also want to ensure that everyone is like, feeling supported and, coping with everything that they're learning, even though it's the most beautiful, empowering space. But like, for example, inner child, that is heavy, and so.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot to cover, and I'm sure some people have a lot more than others as well, and just depends on the circumstance.
Yeah.
But no, that sounds amazing. And is there still time for people to sign up for that, or how does it work?
Yeah, so I'll share that in a sec, but just to add as well, like I have two of my incredible former clients who are now established entrepreneurs and as therapists and healers, and they will be providing like a 60-minute healing session to the group every month as well.
Amazing.
So like a blend of Reiki and EFT tapping as well. So I'm buzzing. So of course there's always room for anyone to join. This is a community led movement, and
Yeah.
people can join whenever they like. They can, take a break whenever they like. And while we begin a new book on the start of each month, people can join whenever, because
Yeah.
we leave all of the workshops and masterclasses to at least halfway through the month, so people can get a real strong feel of the learnings from the book first. So yeah, it's it's like life-changing movement, but very affordable as well. So
Yeah.
I'm conscious that people have like wanted to work together and they're not ready to make it an investment, because coaching is a big investment.
Of course, yeah.
So I've created a community for people to be able to receive so much value and completely change their lives from a group point of view. So it's €47 a month for a monthly subscription, and then it's even cheaper for the annual as well.
Amazing. And for everything you get with that.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Sorcha, thank you for being here today, for being so open.
Oh, we're done.
Yeah, we nearly are. For anyone who wants to connect with you, wants to find out more about you, where can they go? Where can they find you?
Oh, that's so sweet. Any questions or anything like that, I'm always open to hearing them. I am on Instagram at Seed Mindset Coaching, and I would love to, meet some new beautiful faces.
Amazing. So we are going to finish off your lashes, and then we're going to have a look at the finished look. Thank you so much, Sorcha.
Thank you so much as well.
Here is the before and after of the set that we created today. We would love to hear what you think of the finished look and today's episode in the comments. Thank you for listening. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you next week.